All right. Today we have Punloid here, creator of Wisher World. Yeah. Honestly, we were gonna do this a lot earlier. We just kind of
Uh-huh.
forgot. A lot of things happened,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah. But I guess we should just get right to it.
Yep.
How did you get into art? What got you here? I guess. Ramble away.
Um, yeah, I've always been drawing since I was a little kid, like probably before I can write. So I really can't think of a time. I can't really think of too many times where I didn't draw. I think the first thing that happened was that when I was really young, maybe like 3 or 4, I used to ask my mom to draw like things for me. I'd be like, draw this, draw that. And then one day she was just like, no, you do it yourself. And then like I was like, oh, like okay. And and one of the rules that my mom had when I like drew is like she was like, you can't, like don't essentially like waste paper, waste supplies. Like if
Okay.
you draw something, and you think it's messed up, figure out a way to make it look right, make it look better. And I feel like that did definitely, like from an early age, like contribute to like I guess my comfort and like confidence with drawing, because like this before, I mean, you had like my little drawing board. Any kid in the 2000s probably had one of those, but like
Yeah.
you're drawing with like Crayola markers or whatever, and you like mess up a line or something. It sort of like taught me to be able to improvise with my art. So I feel like that was definitely going back to like the very earliest stages, the embryo stages of like drawing,
Yeah.
the goo goo gaga stages.
The fetus.
That was my goo goo gaga stage. Yeah, that was my fetus artist stage.
I see. I see. So, how did that lead to the creation of Wisher World, I suppose?
So I guess if I to give like I guess like a brief
Yeah, give me the
rundown of like
timeline.
how it went there. So the first things that I was always interested in drawing was like animals and stuff. My family would always like read me like books that all involved animals. I loved animals as a kid.
Yeah.
In fact, back then, really the only way you could get me into media is if it like had animals in it, and it wasn't until um manga later on where like I actually started to care also about like human like humanoid characters.
Yeah.
Really, like I was a complete like Pokemon kid, dinosaur kid. Like I drew animals all the time. But I do feel like because like when you're drawing animals, you're drawing a bunch of different body types. So
Yeah.
whenever like people come to me and like ask me about like advice on like drawing human anatomy, I feel like I have to come at it from a different angle, because like the way I learned human anatomy was just sort of like another animal. Like I got used
Ah.
to drawing so many different animal body types. I mean, we're basically just monkeys with hands. So like I sort of just moved to drawing humans like that. I don't think I ever thought about human anatomy in a specific, like a different way. So I
Ah.
have to like remember, okay, like when people are like learning human anatomy, they're not necessarily always coming at it from that angle. But so yeah, I was really into animal stuff. I still am. I actually still have certain comics and like
Hmm.
projects that actually do have animal main characters. They're just not the ones that are out right now.
Okay.
But so then when I got into like manga and anime, which was mostly like the earliest stuff was definitely like a lot of like shonen action stuff.
Yeah.
um that's when I was like, oh wow, it's like so cool draw, and also like martial arts, because I always like martial arts movies. I was like, oh well, like
Okay.
humans, I could draw them doing like all these martial arts, like fighting and like stuff, and that's what sort of like got me like really into that. Like I started getting into like action stuff. So skipping to like when Wisher World was first created, like the inception of Wisher World was in early high school. It was
Okay.
in like I want to say the middle of freshman year, and it was mostly inspired by like Gothic architecture. I was like, oh, this looks
Ah.
cool. I want to like come up with a like creature that's sort of like kind of like I feel like would like live inside a Gothic cathedral, and
Hmm.
was gonna have like the themes of scapegoating and stuff.
Okay.
And the whole Wisher aspect was actually like sort of an idea that I grabbed from a villain from another story from an entirely different comic that I was making, where like the villain had the ability to like turn people's, like if someone would say something, they would like turn it into a move and use it against them.
Okay.
So I think I actually forget that that's where that came from, but then I decided to use it as like, oh, this would be a cool wish fulfillment thing to sort of hook people in with it, and then that's sort of what the original that's how I got to making Wisher World. And the current incarnation of Wisher World is something I came up with like when I started, I guess, like revamping the story a year before it came out, because like everything that like you see on Webtoon I made like long in advance, especially like the early stuff. Like
Okay.
I was drawing Wisher World for an entire year and making the buffer back in
Yeah.
like December, and then it like released in October. So that's sort of how like Wisher World's production is. I always, for all my comics, I kind of prefer them to have like large buffers where I'm not necessarily like, making things as they come out.
Yeah.
So it could stay, so I could be more in control.
Yeah. You probably heard me like talk about your art and how crazy it is, right? See,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
wonder why you
Uh-huh.
just don't go even harder, right? Like I understand the deadline and the buffer, right? But it's just like
Uh-huh.
you could go even crazier with the art. Like
Oh yeah,
I
I remember you saying that, and I actually found that really interesting because in my head, I'm kind of like wondering, like I feel like it is true. Like
yes.
the way you looked at that specific piece and was like, technically, you probably could have sat here and maybe spent a
Yeah.
couple more hours on it, and it would look like even more so. And like I felt that interesting that someone like actually would like I guess can look at art and sort of tell that, because I do think that like probably the average person doesn't really like even look that deeply
Yeah.
at anything. Like maybe, I don't know, you've seen enough of my other stuff where I was sort of like putting in more and was like, this could have sort of been applied to here too, sort of
Mhm.
thing. Um, so in general, for Wisher World itself, and just like when making comics, like and that's not to say, because there are panels where I do try like go the extra mile, and even with that one, I still did feel
Yeah.
like I really got into it, because I really enjoyed that panel. But I feel like in terms of like efficiency sake, like for me, what's more important is like the idea gets across, because um like obviously like you can't do that for like every panel or like all the time, so it's sort of
Yeah.
like a way of like trying to, I guess, like efficiently use my energy to get as much of like the idea and the story across as I think is like satisfactory for both me and like whoever is reading it, without there being any sort of like negative downsides, like, taking too long for it to come out or burnout or anything like that. And also like sometimes when drawing, like sometimes you could sort of overdo things too, where you realize you kind of messed with it too
True.
much and you're like, damn, what did I, like, I don't know,
What did I
maybe I should take
make?
a couple steps back. Like, yeah, but I would say for Wisher World itself, when I originally made it, the entire point of like the reason I chose to start with that as like being my main ongoing series is actually because it's like a series where like in terms of its aesthetics and like its presentation, I'm actually not as picky about how it looks. So
Ah.
the whole entire point was for me to be able to like make something that I know I could like have, like I don't have to go 100% to in order to just like make it fun and get it done and just have it out there for people, because I had struggled. I had like to do a lot of mental manipulation on myself for years to get my point to it like a certain level of productivity and be able to
Yeah.
balance it with school and work and stuff. And so like I sort of designed Wisher World. In fact, like the first episode, I was like, whatever I make in 4 days, that's it. I have to figure out some way to like make it feel like this can wrap up in that episode, and I have to move on. I just have to. So I'm less strict on myself with that now, because obviously I got to a point where I can just comfortably sit down and just make stuff. But like in order to get me there, I had to sort of train myself to be like, okay, I'm going to design this comic and I'm going to design the production in a way where I can just sit down, make this amount of the story in this amount of time, wrap it up. And what it does is it sort of like gets you in this positive reward cycle where your motivation increases, because you sort of chunk things up to where you have like all of these little rewards, like, oh, I finished this, compared to like if you were to just keep sort of slogging on to something, for a long time, your brain doesn't really get that reward, so you slowly will lose motivation for it. So over time, I realized that as I was able to get more in the zone and just more efficient, then I could put in more effort when I needed to in certain places without having like any downside. So it's sort of been like an ongoing sort of feedback thing. But that is sort of how Wisher World was initially designed.
Yeah, I did kind of feel bad when I was saying that, cause it's just like it does kind of sound like I'm saying you're not doing as good as you could, but then I'm like, I'm also praising the fact that this is really good and it can even be better, you know? But it's just like, it's a double-edged sword, I guess, how I asked that
Yeah,
question.
exactly. No, I like the honesty. I like the honesty of it. Like I like when like because I know it's not like an insult or anything. Like
Yeah.
I said, it is like literally sort of true because like for most comic artists, like even professionals, I'd say like especially over time, you're never like putting in 100% because it's not like efficient. Like when it
Yeah.
comes to people who do illustrations, like that's why like when you look at like illustrative work and even like when say if like I decide to do like a cover art or something, like a lot of times the quality of like that art is going to be on a different level than the quality of like the average panel to panel because it's just such an ongoing like process that like I wouldn't say I know some people say comic art is hard. I wouldn't describe it as that. I still feel like for me it's mostly entertainment, it's mostly fun. But I do understand what they mean, but like, compared to like a lot of other creative stuff, like there's just so much stuff that's constantly going and it's not I don't want to say it's not for everyone, but like it does take a specific like you got to figure out how you're going to do that sustainably and it takes like certain types of I guess like I don't want to say personality but certain ways of like I guess applying yourself because like you got to cover the story, you have to be a writer, you have to be doing you have to do like storyboards, you're the line artist, you're the color artist, you're like juggling what in a lot of like other industries multiple people would be doing and you're just doing it on your own, usually
Yeah.
not getting paid or anything. I personally don't care about getting paid, but you're not getting compensated or anything. So you're just, just whatever resources people have at the time to put that together is, what you're going to get the end result of that.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, I just felt a little bad for it when I asked that, but I was like, okay, I think you will understand, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I actually like, in fact, like, on the recent update, cause I had to currently pause Wisher World so I could like
Yeah.
work on Arc 2. Like in the back of my head, I knew that, and I always sense this. Like in my head, I think like if I feel that something is off, I'm gonna assume that there's gonna be other people who feel like that too. So I felt like compared to like what I sort of originally wanted to do with like Caltrop and Vela, like the character writing on them was weaker than what I wanted to do, and I kind of like pushed it quicker
Yeah.
for like certain reasons at the time that now I realize I think I could somehow accomplish those other goals and at the same time, and I'm just going to take this opportunity. And I mentioned that, and then someone else in the comments also said, yeah, something was sort of off about them, and I like the honesty that they were like, yeah, I sense that too,
Mhm.
So, and I've had like people in the comments, like I remember I got one comment where like if someone will mention that they're confused about something, and that's why I decided like in the beginning of Arc 2 to like put a like explaining what happened beforehand so that people don't have to constantly go back.
Yeah.
So I like it when people are like honest about I can't address everything and not necessarily everything I agree with, but I do like the honesty of feeling like people are open enough to tell me how they really feel about something so I can gauge, okay, like how many people feel this way about this thing, how many people feel that way. Like I'm still at the end of the day making it for myself, but if I could ever like sort of combine what I want and at the same time like make it more accessible for other people too, like the best way to be able to do that is like knowing how people really feel, them not feeling like I would delete their comment because they were like, hey, I'm confused about what happened in this episode,
No, you're not.
like
No, you're
gonna be
not.
I'm gonna be
Confused?
like, okay,
Who said that?
yeah. There were comments like that before, and if someone they're probably not watching, but if you are, like, I'm not saying that to call you out. I'm just like giving an example of how I'm comfortable with people giving feedback.
He's calling
But
you out.
yeah, I'm secretly calling you. I can't even remember who
Exactly.
said that. I just know it. I just know what happened, and when they did, I was like, oh, you know what? I should, put a briefing in the beginning of the next arc, so that people, that could help people out, when it comes to that, So
True, true,
yeah,
true.
feedback is good.
Yeah, I mean, with the new characters like Caltrop, it definitely felt a lot faster pace, compared to
Yeah,
uh Facadia. I still can't
yeah.
pronounce her name right.
So like I don't want to spoil what sort of the original story was, but essentially like part of the reason I think in my head I decided to speed it up, and I do want to be honest,
Yeah,
it's very rare that I get burnt out, but I would say I was sort of exhausted a bit at the end of arc 1, and I had always planned, which I did mention in the updates, I always planned to give myself more breaks than I actually did, but I just never did that because
yeah,
like once there's a momentum going, I'm thinking, I shouldn't do that now. It's not a like that's not a good decision, and I just feel like I got so sucked into things, and thankfully this year I've gotten more chance to have a better like outside life comic balance because I got like so sucked into it. Like I've been spending more time with my friends, spending a lot less time on the internet, and I feel like it's like sort of giving me time to be like, oh yeah, I really do need to like take care of myself. So I was like a bit exhausted, and like what really comes down to, like, in my opinion, the end product is having really good pre-production. And there were some pre-production issues that happened, and also I was like afraid that if I started off because you know how the beginning starts without Picadia there.
yeah,
I kind of have this rule, like outside of like interviews like this, where like you're asking me stuff, I'm fine with talking about it, but I have like sort of a rule that like I don't like I'm not going to really correct people on what happens in my series. They are allowed to perceive whatever they perceive, and I'm not going to correct people. It's my job as like a storyteller to be able, like, if I really want people to see things a certain way, I need to be able to communicate that. And one thing I was afraid of people thinking is that, like, if the next arc just opens up with Caltrop and Bella, people will assume that if it goes on too long like that, that the entire arc is actually just them, and like it's just going to be like a them arc, like with the Ficadia one, and you won't see Ficadia.
yeah.
And like I did not want that, like that to be what people thought, because it doesn't. It starts out with them, but like the whole point of that arc, it's going to be all three of them.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how long, like, for the original story with Caltrop and Bella that really better goes into sort of like presenting their characters. I'm like thinking like maybe there's a way where I can make it a bit faster so that people can know that it's going to be all three of them, and then maybe in some way I could show the rest of it later. So that's why I'm saying what does happen if that part gets rewritten, like if say I've deleted and re-uploaded it. Everything that you guys have already saw in that is still canon. Like all those moments are still canon. It's just that it is actually technically missing like an earlier part of that story. So it was sort of like shortened down for that. I feel like that was probably my biggest anxiety when writing it, is that like, like if I started out with just them, people would think that the entire arc would just be them, and because like the biggest draw at the moment to Wish the World is Ficadia, like I didn't want that to end up being like sort of like a confusion, because if people said it, I wouldn't want to go in there and be like, hey guys, this is actually how the story's going to be, because I don't know, in my head it's just like sort of amateur to be the type of like author that's sort of hovering over their fans, like, hey guys, think this way about my series. Like I try I try to like let people think whatever. Like there are even like comments that are like interpretations that I don't agree with, but I'm fine with that, because like, hey, if that's how you interpreted the
You're wrong.
series,
You're
you know,
wrong.
that's how you interpret it. Like that's
Yeah.
fine by me, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm completely
So
different. I just say
I'll
you're wrong.
probably
Like
fix
that's
it.
how I be.
If you were the comic, you'd be like, hey guys,
Oh,
that's a terrible headcanon.
yeah.
The
How about you stop that?
headcanon's completely
Yeah.
wrong. Stop
That's
it.
not me. That's not what I wrote. It wasn't. Good thing I can't draw. I don't need to be on that. I'd be so mean as a comic artist. I'd be way too mean to be doing this, bro. I already am, but I mean this is different.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, that'd be funny. If you did make a comic, what would it be about?
No
Curious.
idea.
No idea.
I
Okay.
haven't gotten anything yet.
You'd just be making sure your commenters are correct.
Yeah.
with their information.
Yeah, I wouldn't have like no plan whatsoever if I made something. Like that's just how I be,
Uh-huh.
bro. I just go with what I feel, and it would just be a mess.
You
That's
like
how it is.
retcon it later on, and then like
Oh, that
being
never
mad
happened.
at people they go with the retcon.
Like
Like, hey
I'll
guys,
just
I
never
think
delete the
they're
chapters either. I'll just be like, that never happened.
uh-huh.
Who
That
wrote
never
that? I didn't.
happened.
But it's on your page, Mops. No, it's not. Go
Yeah,
back and find it. Finds it.
there's no
I don't
evidence.
remember this. I didn't write this. I'd be one of those like authors. I'd be like, okay, what abilities does my character have?
Yeah,
What has my character done? You know, I wouldn't
they
look
like the
back.
new superpowers every new arc.
Exactly. Like I wouldn't remember shit, bro. I'm gonna be honest. I guess like speaking of Wisher World and how far you planned,
Mhm.
do you have an ending for it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, good,
There's an ending for it.
good.
So Wisher World is planned. I'm probably like a lot of it is like there is improvising. But generally speaking, like the whole gist of like every single arc, I know what every single arc is going to be about. There's probably going to be like 5, minimum 6, maximum. I did shorten it a bit because I do want to finish it, and I was like, okay, the other ideas that I have that aren't necessary to complete the story, I could complete the story, and then I could just make extras that go over those ideas if I have the time and stuff. So that's what I was thinking. But so I do have each arc planned out, what they're going to be about, like the purpose of them. Some of the characters in those arcs, I didn't finalize all of them, like, you know, the characters that aren't the main characters.
Yeah.
Because Wisher World is honestly like probably the lightest in terms of like world building for like my series that aren't set in like the modern day. Like
Okay.
especially compared to like Adam Storm. Really, like it's sort of more along the lines of Dragon Ball, though I hope I'm more consistent.
Okay.
Whereas like things are clearly there more for the story rather than anything else. Like for example, like when people bring up Bacadia's powers and like her limitations, in reality, those limitations are there, so it doesn't ruin the story. Not really, because like of any deep world building reason.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of it is more functional for the drama of the narrative rather than the other way around.
OP.
For
All I
Wisher
gotta
World,
say.
yeah.
Make her too
Yeah,
OP.
she had to be mad. She had to be super nerfed.
Yeah.
She had to be mega nerfed with that kind of power. It's like kind of a bait and switch. Like, yeah, Sayre's the main character that can wish for anything, but nah, you actually really don't want her to.
Yeah,
So...
don't let her do that. Because like we already know that she's like super like, you know, fight heavy if she wants to be. So that would be bad.
But yeah, that's how a lot of so yeah, there is an ending planned with Wisher World for each of the main characters. I know how generally even like really the last couple scenes are going to be
Okay.
So
Good, you're not
yeah,
like
the
me.
Nah, I can't. Like the long series, like series that are not super episodic. I like not only plan them in advance because, like, you know, for practical reasons, but just like when I come up with them, that's just sort of what naturally happens. Like, especially like when I'm in the mode where like I'm just creating the series, like all the ideas just come flooding in, and like I sort of, in general, usually end up having what is essentially like a skeleton of what the series is going to be.
Yeah.
And then really everything afterwards is just filling in the structure that's already there.
Yeah. So
Yep.
what's the estimation of chapters gonna be like?
That I haven't gotten down. I would say like for the current arc, and with the rewrites, I don't know, but the current arc isn't really supposed to be as long as the last one. It's still probably going to be around the same length. And then the so what was the previous arc? What, like 50 something chapters?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, let's say like 50 something chapters. So this one might be like, I don't know, 40, 45. Okay. Depends on how much like I add with the rewrites. Because it's supposed to be like significantly shorter. So that one is going to be that length. The next one might be long, because that's going to really be like the first big arc. So like the current one, the tone is obviously a lot lighter. The arc afterwards is going to be a bit more heavy in terms of like similar to the first one, except there's going to be more characters involved and there's going to be more world building involved. So that's going to be like the first big arc, and then the next one, it could possibly be another short arc after that. So what's that? That's like arc 4. And then either there's going to be 2 after that, or I'm going to combine them into 1. So that last one, I don't have as much of like a gauge, because the further into the series, the more vague the ideas are, rather than like as structured about exactly how they're going to go. But yeah, I do want to keep each of the arcs though not to be like super long. Like I don't want there to be an arc that's like hundreds of chapters. I don't want to make a One Piece or like a the Great War arc from Naruto. God, I'm not good. I'm trying not to make one of those. Not built for that.
That's just funny. So I'm just stuck on. Are there other genres you wanted to dabble in that you couldn't, like in the series that you've made?
Yeah, so obviously, Precious Venom, which is the one that's going to be running side by side, is like just a completely different genre that is like completely different from Wisher World. And I think one of the things I really like that's kind of different about it, that really isn't about the genre, it's more the setting, like, which is sort of like a nice balance for me as a creator to be able to jump back and forth between the two, is that like this one is more it's obviously like a more down-to-earth setting, so I get to like draw all of these from like a lot of things like in real life that's more relatable to me, obviously, or like to people I've known or met, than for Wisher World. And it's sort of like it's really fun being able to I guess sort of even like express a bit of like my actual culture within the series, because like it's very clearly very like I'm from the East Coast US, like the metropolitan East Coast US. So like if you look at like the design of like the houses and like certain aspects, I think of even the way the characters act, I feel like it presents that, which is sort of nice, because I feel like when I come across other people's series, I get to see that in their series. Like if they made like a series and they're like from Italy, or if they're trying to make a series and they're trying to base it off sort of like Japanese or like Korean culture. And it's not like really that the series is like that's the most important thing, but it is like a very different vibe that I get to play around with, and like different elements that I get to play around with that are obviously could never be done in Wisher World, because of like the setting.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, there are other genres. So like that one is obviously like a psychological GL. Yeah, it's actually I don't want to spoil too much, but I would honestly say that Precious Venom could possibly arguably be darker than at least like Wisher World's first first arc. Yeah, it is kind of a little bit like the cutesy elements and like the slice of life elements are definitely part of it. I don't want to say I'm like it's trying to trick people, but I don't think people are gonna think where it's gonna go is like what it seems to be on the surface. But I mean, the name is called Precious Venom, so no, at least there will be. There generally won't really be any violence. Characters won't. I don't want to 100% say, but I don't think they're going. I don't think most of them are going to do anything where they need to be sent to jail or something. Because I mean, this is.
Yes.
But a lot of my characters, the way I write them, even in Wisher World, is like I don't really like using the term morally gray, because I don't really feel like that represents what I'm going for. It's more like they don't need to be the moral center for like the audience. So they could arguably be problematic. Just the thing is like I care about like as long as like they're entertaining. Those are just like the elements I want to explore. I don't really want to feel like tied down to I need to make characters that are necessarily represent how like the audience feels. Thankfully, I feel like I have an older audience who that's like good to work with, because like people already have their own feelings about things. I don't feel the need like I need to like make
Yeah.
things educational or parent for like the audience, because everyone's like sort of old enough to understand stuff, you know, like if Engaran acts like an asshole, you know, it's not, I'm trying to say Engaran is right or Fercadia is right. It's like, no, these are just, I guess, like I think of it as like an experiment, right? Like I
Yeah.
have all these characters, and the outcome is what I think would be most interesting for like exploring the story and realistically is going to happen, not necessarily like who I think is the most right or wrong in this situation.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about like that, and if you wanted like your Girls Love series, you want to tell us anything about it, but you gave us enough. You gave us enough.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't want to have anybody get spoiled, you know.
Yeah.
But I got like 3 more questions for Wisher World. Then we got other stuff. They weren't for me because I wouldn't ask these questions, to be honest.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's from an artist that we both know. So, yeah. Okay, so how do you choreograph your fights, your panels, all that?
I think most of the time, like I guess like how do I come up with the moves?
Yeah,
I think like
all that.
90% of it is like me listening to music and literally like seeing an A and B in my head, and then I just like put it onto.
I see.
I just draw it out.
So
yeah.
So it's not like a super deep, complex thing.
No, not necessarily. I do sometimes go back in and try to like think, like depending on the type of fight, thinking about it more. So like for example, there is like with strategy in some of the Wisher World where like, you know, we had like various characters, like what's the word? Like their stamina abilities and things like that came up. So I do incorporate that stuff, but like in terms of like just the actual like choreography and like what I think looks cool, it really comes down to like the character's fighting style and what I think just would look cool in a fight and would be fun to draw. Yeah.
So that's why that dude got suffocated by ass. I see.
Yup. Yeah. I was just like, oh, that'd be kind of funny, and then I just tossed it in there. There is no strategic reason for it.
It just happened.
Yeah, just happened.
I see. Well, why did you choose to have a purple skinned MC? Why didn't you go for anybody else? This is just, I'm also curious about some of these as well, but yeah, I'm wondering. Why is she purple, bro?
That is the most specific question I've ever gotten. I love it. That's hilarious.
I'm surprised that hasn't been asked before.
Why but like as opposed to green?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, honestly, I think like when I came up with the design for Fercadia, like in a lot of my character designs, they mostly just manifest as they are, and it like Fercadia got tweaked a little bit.
Okay.
And it wasn't her skin color; it was actually the clothes, her clothing. So because of like her being purple, her original clothes were a lot more like the yellow in her shirt was more of like a cream color, and her skirt was like gray, and it just didn't look good because like you have like all these tertiary colors, and so I decided to like make the shirt like more yellow because like that would contrast with the purple, and then I just made the skirt the same color as like her top to just make it look more uniform. But other than that, no, her color was just sort of purple because there might have been a reason long ago if you asked 14-year-old me, but don't me now. It's just looked good. Purple is kind of a royal color, especially like as opposed to like green. It would make me think like a Smurf, and like no, green would make me think of like an alien. Like blue would make me think of like a Smurf. And
I was gonna say I don't think greens are Smurfs.
Yeah. So yeah, purple works.
I see. And why did you go for a sort of monotone color scheme overall?
Monotone?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd really say it's monotone. Really, the only first episode is monotone. Like monotone in terms of like the same colors being used, because I feel like a lot of the colors are pretty contrasting with specific
I don't know.
portion.
I didn't ask this one. Remember that.
Okay. Oh yeah, true.
See, this is why I should be asking questions, bro. I don't know.
I guess I could sort of explain the color scheme. So like the original like in my head, well, like I said before, like I didn't have as much of like a specific intent making Wisher World of like what it would look like. Like I wasn't as picky about it. So like opposed to Atom Storm. Like when I think of Atom Storm, I have like very specific colors in mind to like the places and the characters and locations and all that stuff. And they have to be that way. Like they have to be exactly the way I see it in my mind. But with Wisher World, I always actually originally imagined it to just be in black and white, and that's why I picked it, because I was like, if I need to toss this into a more webtoony design looking thing, because this is sort of before I really got accustomed to like the webtoon style. And I could bend this one into something like that, because I won't really care. It was always intended to be black and white anyway. So the first couple of chapters that have just the really flat, simplified colors was just going over that premise I told you, where I just had to make it really fast. And then I realized, oh, I actually can just color it normal now and actually still make it the same speed. So then I started to think a little bit more about what I would want the color scheme for Wisher World to be. And I liked sort of the red, like the sort of more like a, not like a bright red, but like a velvety red with like the blue and the green, like the tealish green. But really, it's really just like what the location is. I just decided that cathedral is going to look that way. And then when it was going on for too long, and I was like, it's looking too similar for too long, I was like, oh, I'm going to take that color scheme that she used when she was making the wish, where like I made it like a different color for like, you know, atmospheric reasons. And I'm going to make when she starts off fighting them, I'm going to make it that color too. So like, I also changed the colors to like break up the story so that it doesn't just look the same, because for this arc, when you think about it, spending a lot of time in just one location, like most of it takes place in that cathedral. So I tried to find ways to like break up how it feels different. In the first part, the cathedral is like colored you know, blue. It's completely nighttime. Then the sun starts coming out. It starts to get colored a bit lighter, and I'm using like the reds, and then they're on top of the cathedral, so I get to color it differently. So for this specific arc, that is really where a lot of the color choices come from. The next one is a little bit more just what I actually just think that places would be, and like what the atmosphere would be. Because they as the series goes on, they're not going to be stuck in like one location as much. They're going to be going to different places, so there's probably but yeah. And then also like the medieval world, really like the only literal colors, because that's the sort of thing, like I guess I want to pick colors that weren't as literal for the medieval world, because when you think about like outside of the nature, medieval colors is just a bunch of like boring grays and browns and like who wants to color everything like that? The funny thing is, like, the medieval time period, medieval Europe isn't even like my favorite time period or culture. It's just the one that like Wisher World has. It's just okay.
Witch
but
hunts.
the weird thing is, like, it's not even really like, I like studying it. I still like look into studying it when it like coming up with stuff for Wisher World. But like in terms of like, I guess my general interest in like world history and stuff, it's nowhere near like the one that I think is like the most fun to draw or the most interesting. So I was like, how do I make this way more interesting? Oh yeah, I'm not going to constantly use their literal colors, because I am not coloring everything brown and gray, and especially like with Vicadia's color scheme, because her color scheme already uses a lot of tertiary colors, which don't stand out a ton outside of like the yellow, which is sort of like the difference between her and like my other main character, Rosetta. Like, so her design, so yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking about. Other than that, in terms of a color identity, I don't feel as much of that as I do in my other series. Like Precious Venom and Atom Storm definitely have more of like a color personality in mind when I make them, compared to Wisher World.
I see. Definitely gonna get a message saying that's not what I meant or whatever. I know that.
My bad. I'm literally, I don't know if this is the guy, but I'm assuming it's Faye.
No.
So it's not? Okay.
No, totally not. These questions weren't like months old or anything. Yeah. It wasn't Faye, 100%. He's totally not gonna say something to me after this video. I'm gonna get a very, you know, talking to after this video, I guess. Because I know he's gonna watch it. Hi, Faye.
Hi, Faye.
Yeah. Well, time to go into something more relevant.
Ooh.
What's the obsession with Gowther, bro? I gotta know.
Oh, Gowther is like my new favorite character. I love him so much. He's awesome.
What did he do for all this? Because every
He
time I look at
exists.
your Instagram story, there's something with Gowther in it. It's just random.
He's awesome. Yeah, it's completely random. Gowther is like literally my new favorite character right now. I want to get like the there's like 7 Deadly Sins card. There's not a lot of merch of 7 Deadly Sins, oddly.
Yeah, I'd understand why.
Really isn't.
The anime
Yeah,
wasn't that good.
The anime sucked. My friends and I tried to watch it because, like, okay, so this is how I got into it. How did I get into it? I think this is how I got into it. So here's the thing. I really like to look at random wikis and see how they design stuff for their series.
I see.
Even if it's like stuff I'm not even into. So I was like jumping around to different anime wikis. And then I came across 7 Deadly Sins, and I was like, oh, I remember like a couple people from high school talking about that back when I was in high school.
Crazy.
But they didn't really tell me that much about, like, what they told me. I don't think would have, like, I just wasn't interested. I was like, oh, okay. And then I remember when I saw like the manga, I was like, oh, the characters look kind of cute. They look kind of Dragon Ballish, but I just like never really read it or got into it. And I think when I saw it, like the anime, I just thought it looked so like I don't know if you were, like, I think you were around during this time period, but, like, if anyone who's younger is watching this, like, during the 2010s, there was sort of, like, this stigma around A1 Pictures and their sort of, like, cookie cutter, low quality sometimes, like, and I was just like, this looks so, like, A1 Pictures, like, everyone looks so garish, like, it looks, like, modern, but, like, a bad way of doing it, like, why is the grass so, like, painfully like neon green, like, oh, this shit just look like, I don't know. So like as like an action shonen fan, it just like, I don't know, there was just always something a little bit off. Oh yeah, and then there's like the dude who like looked like everybody calls bisexual Vegeta, and I was like, what is it, like, why is this man wearing like BDSM shit? Like I was just so confused. Yeah, so I was like, So I come across the wiki, and then like me and one of my friends was like, oh, I actually like I love 7 Deadly Sins, or like that's like something that they're a fan of and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, let me check out the manga. So I immediately check out the manga. Good. And I love the artwork. Like the artwork is so good. Like it feels like a combination of like sort of Dragon Ball and Berserk and like Fairy Tail. Like the way, not Fairy Tail the story, but like Fairy Tail artwork, with like how like detailed and like fluffy the backgrounds are. And but the thing is, I like immediately like saw like a picture of Gowther at one point. I was like, I just want to skip to where Gowther shows up. So the funny thing is, I think I skipped a lot of like the really perverted stuff. And once my friend started telling me about like how perverted some of the series was, I was like, oh, this is perfect, because I'm reading the manga. I can just skip it. Because like in anime, you're sort of like forced to sit through that, and like in the manga, I just feel like, this fucking character does not look their age. I am just going to skip this chapter. So like technically, I haven't actually read the entire series, but I've read enough of it to know. Like I'm basically being like, I'm gonna take what the series, like what I like from the series, and just sort of ignore the rest of it. Yeah. So the fight scenes are just like so good in the manga. They do not compare to the anime, and then the anime got worse because like Studio Dean picked it up, and then it started looking even like shittier, which is kind of funny, but at the same time I'm like, damn, I think like if I ever get the free time, it's so bad I just want to animate it myself, because this is just like straight disrespect. Like me and my friends have like this running joke about how bad the costumes are in 7 Deadly Sins. Like you got characters wearing like straight up fruit bowls on like their legs, and like they'll have like a texture on one part of their body, and the next will just be a straight like flat PNG paint bucket tool. Like it's just
perfect outfit.
But yeah, going back to Gowther, yeah, Gowther ended up becoming like my favorite character, like the favorite character I haven't like had in a long time. I think my last favorite character was Nanju Sachi from Goodnight Punpun. which was all the way back when I was like, I got into Goodnight Pum Pum when I was straight out of high school. So it's been a while. So it's nice having a new favorite character, because as you get older, less, you know, things become like, I guess, like exciting or impactful to you, because you've just seen so much stuff. So I really like the whole, like I liked I love his design. He's one of the few characters that has mostly good outfits. The last like outfit he was wearing looked like a straight up Hunter x Hunter outfit, and I'm a giant Hunter x Hunter dick rider, so like of course I'm gonna praise that. I like the character's sense of humor. I like his style. I like what else do I like? I really like his character arc in terms of like the whole like emotions thing. And he's like one of the few characters that doesn't try to do anything with a fucking lolly-esque looking fucking character.
You just ignore
he still does questionable shit, but I still like him because he's my favorite.
Twink after all, so makes sense.
He's a what? He's not a twink.
He's a twink. Come on.
He's not a twink.
He's definitely a twink.
He's only banged women.
He's a twink, but he could fuck women. Like, there's a thing there. You can do that. You can be that.
Nah.
You can be a femboy pretty much.
Gowther's just Gowther.
Yeah, okay, he's a femboy then. He's a femboy then.
Gowther is just Gowther. He starts out more in the manga more androgynous, and the series begins to draw him like. But I consider
he had something.
Gowther is Gowther. Gowther is perfect. That's why I will say he is. But yeah, so Seven Deadly Sins, like it's been a while since I was into like a shonen action series, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really a fan of like any of the new ones that are out now. I've like partially grown out of it, on top of me just not really being into the new style of stuff. Like I can't get into JJK. I can't. I appreciate Chainsaw Man.
Oh yeah, some interesting stuff happened in the new chapter.
Wait, which one? Chainsaw Man or JJK?
Chainsaw Man, yeah.
Does it have to do with Makima?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it does not. Yeah, it's way past that.
I kind of want to know, but I don't know if like you'll be like, oh, if people watch, there'll be spoilers. But like I seriously don't know. Okay, tell it. What happened?
Someone SA's Denji. That's all I'll say.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I wasn't expecting. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
It's like turning into Berserk. I mean, to be honest, it started off pretty like rough, but oh god.
I mean,
oh god.
Where do you go when all your MC wants to do is touch titties? Where do you go from there? Really?
Yeah. I respect the realism of the way Chainsaw Man presents things, which is why I respect it as a series. Like the way it presents like the impacts of like poverty and you know, children who aren't raised with like proper role models, where adults are essentially taking advantage of them. Like it's bleak, but it is realistic, and it's very rare, I think, in like shonen media where something is like portrayed like that. And even though I can't really find it entertaining per se, I do like respect its existence. So it's like sort of like something that's not for me. I don't like, I've read chapters of it, I was like, oh okay, I sort of see what they're going for. But like I don't think I'd ever like just casually read it just for like the fun of it sort of thing.
Wouldn't do it either. I just know about the new chapter because all I see is on Twitter, bro. Awesome.
Jeez. Oh my god.
I mean, it's that and JJK, but I mean, I don't really care much for JJK. So.
Wait, does something happen like that in JJK?
No, it's
someone get essayed in JJK.
No, it's like something with like Gojo and stuff. So.
Did he come back? Didn't he come back?
No, he came back as Yuta, as in Yuta is now in control of his body. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I gotta talk to one of my hardcore JoJo fans.
Somebody like that.
Friends about this. Yeah. My friend who was
they
like in mad denial.
They probably already know.
I don't know, because this person doesn't like follow spoilers. They only like.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they know. This person was like. She was in like mad denial when he died, and I just kept sending her like the Kit Kat bar meme.
Oh yeah, he got cooked. Like that's how it is.
It's like
Gojo got dropped off screen. That's just how it is. Sorry. So I mean, bro, Gage or whatever how he pronounced his name, he's just killing everybody. So I mean, realistically, it's just eventually when is it gonna be Gojo's turn? You know, it was really like that.
Yeah. And like for those series, not to say there's no merit to that, but for series like that, I can't get invested because if I know like there's a likelihood of like a ton of people dying, I just like instead of feeling emotional, like I just start not caring about the characters because I know that they're gonna die, or I know that something's gonna happen to them.
Yeah, everyone's out here like Gojo's dead and stuff like that. It's basically how they're feeling about that is like if like the author of Seven Deadly Sins killed Gowther, bro. It's like that.
Yeah, exactly. Which isn't allowed. That's the other funny thing about Seven Deadly Sins fights. Like, okay, like halfway through the series, like they're so goddamn OP. So like the only enjoyment of the fights is really like how it looks, right? Because like at a certain point, I was like, okay, they can't, like, you can't do anything to any of these guys. Like, they're like eldritch beings that are like thousands of years old. Someone gets their freaking limb cut off, their head knocked off, and they're just like, oh, okay. So like, I'm reading the manga and I'm like watching characters get decimated, and I feel nothing because I know they're gonna be fine. I'm just like only really paying attention to how cool it looks. Which honestly is good popcorn. It's like good action popcorn. But I found that funny. Like, I always feel like I'm talking about like my OC do not steal on the playground. My character is more powerful than yours. Whenever I talk about the set, I'm like, I didn't write them this way. I didn't decide for them to be this unnaturally OP. This is just how they're all written.
Yeah, and then there's other beings in this in this whole fantasy spot. There's a person named Anos, if you know who that is. He does some crazy stuff.
No.
Basically, he's the guy that goes like, "Oh, you think killing me will kill me?"
No.
That's literally him. That's all he does.
Interesting. I know like there is a sequel, and I have interesting feelings about the sequel because mostly because I like where the series ended off with Gowther, and I don't really actually like reading a lot of series as they're going on once I become like that attached to a character, because I don't want them to mess it up. Like, I've lived through too much like Boruto, Dragon Ball Super nonsense for me to like I'm like, damn, the series is still continuing. But the thing is, like, the way he ended it, it made it really clear that, like, this isn't, like, a cash grab. He probably always intended it to be this way. So I kind of respect it continuing, but I still don't want to touch it. Like, I'm like, I want to wait for that series to end. And I keep, like, going on Reddit being like, hey, is this series about to end? And then people are like, oh, it looks like it's going to continue for a go. I'm like, ah, damn.
There's, like, a couple more chapters
like,
you can go, you know.
Yeah, so, like, when it ends, maybe I'll like sneak a look into it, but yeah, like at the moment I am just sort of like in my head, because I'm so used to the Boruto stuff. I don't even like really get upset when like a franchise I like does something. I'm just like, I choose what's going to be canon to me, and everything else is just it's just a glorified fan fiction. So if I like something from that Boruto does, I'm like, oh, okay, that can be canon, but I'm ignoring everything else because Naruto ends. So that's how I feel about like media continuations.
Very true, very true. At least we got Boruto hate. Let's go. That's all that matters. Boruto hate. That's what we like to see. If you like Boruto, you're wrong, bro. That's all I gotta say. You're wrong. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you need to stop that. I don't know. That's just the best part of that. Best part of that. All Boruto hate all the time. That's what we gotta see. But just like I ask everybody else in these interviews, what's your favorite anime?
You know what? Let me just actually pull up my anime list.
Oh yeah, I forgot I have that. You know, like I forgot.
Yeah. Let me see what I'd say is my favorite. The thing is, I'm more of a manga reader than anime watcher.
I mean, you can say manga too. You can say manga too. That is
okay. So I'll just say what I have on my favorites. So for anime, I have Hunter x Hunter.
True, understand.
Osamatsu-san. I love Osamatsu-san. It is so funny. It is like the first like comedy anime that I was like, this. Oh my god, it's so good. Tsushima is like my favorite. Soul Eater, Mob Psycho 100. I still need to watch the other 2 seasons. So the only reason I was really like I'm able to watch anime is if someone basically gives me access to it for free because I'm cheap as hell. So
Wow.
I actually watched like half of these because I had a friend who had a Crunchyroll account and he just like he gave me like the information for it, and then like he disappeared off the map, but I was still using it. And then like he came
Crazy.
back later. Yeah, like when we weren't even talking, I was just still using his Crunchyroll account. And
I mean,
then
whatever.
so that's why I was able to watch like half of these series. And then the other one is because they actually like dropped them on YouTube for free sometimes. So like they actually dropped
Yeah.
Osamatsu-san and Hunter x Hunter on there for free.
Damn.
Here's a contentious one that back in the day I used to try to get people into, and they were like, Prison School. I love Prison School. That's it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's so funny. It is like so bad it's good with like anything that's gross in it. Like there's only one scene in it because you say ew that is so bad that I did have to skip it, which is like the one where like the girl with the giant tits is like trying to sit on this fucking toy horse and she's like sweating, and I was like, dude, I cannot take the level of sweat coming off of this woman. What is she drinking? But like no, the series is so funny. Like you stay for like you like you watch it for the comedy, but like it actually ends up having really good tension. Like I think in terms of like writing and tension, this was like better than anything I've like ever witnessed. And I was like, I need to like add that type of tension in my series. Like I had never paid attention to like that sort of concept at all until like I watched this series. And then it didn't fully continue, so I had to go and read the manga.
Yeah.
And I actually liked the way that the manga wrapped things up. I know people were complaining about it, and I was like, I don't even want to see it because people barely give this like anime as credit as it is. So I don't want to hear you guys' opinions. But yeah, I remember I would tell people, hey guys, you should try Prison School. I was like in senior year of like high school when I found it, and everybody was like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, you should watch it. So like for me, if something is kinky but it's not my kink, then it's just comedy. So like that's why it's that funny to me. Like it's just so out there that I'm like, this is just actually hilarious. Like if you've ever watched like or read like a bad hentai, it just turns into comedy.
Yes. Yeah.
So Ghost in the Shell 1995 movie is on here. One of like the best anime movies ever, in Akira. The Akira movie is on here.
Nice.
For manga, Hunter x Hunter is my all-time favorite shonen manga.
Nice.
Dragon Ball's there because I'm a Dragon Ball cult member. If you get into it when you're 12, you're kind of a cult member for life. Good Night Pun Pun. It was like my religion for like my early adulthood. I would read that series once a year and like have a completely different like experience with it each time. I love that series. The Prison School manga. I threw the Seven Deadly Sins manga on here too. The Akira manga, the One Piece manga. So I only watched the fight scenes of the One Piece like anime. I don't really like. I'm not gonna be sitting for like thousands of hours like watching characters walk down off. I am a One Piece fan. I am a One Piece manga fan. I do like watch the manga, like read, like pay attention to what the anime is doing now because the production is obviously so good. I want to see how like they adapt stuff. But I'm not gonna sit down and like watch. Nah.
I watched the manga too, by the way.
But and also like I actually like own like 2 box sets of it. I want to get the first box set. I have box set 1 and 2. I have like Sailor Moon manga. I have Hunter x Hunter. I have like a bunch of. I need to get more though. Naruto is on here. To be fair, Naruto's on here because like I have mixed feelings on Naruto. Like if you look at my rating for it, I'm sorry, Late Shippuden is just really not that, or like part 2 technically in terms of the manga. Really brings it down, but like part 1 Naruto and early part of like part 2 holds up really well.
I agree.
Astro Boy is on here.
Astro Boy.
I love Astro Boy, like the original Astro Boy manga, and White Angels Have No Wings, which huge trigger warning. That's the Yuri or the GL that Precious Venom is like partially inspired by, and that one had, let's just say, like most of the characters in the series need to either be in therapy or jail. don't worry, Precious Realm does not get at all to that level, but like the art style of like Gado and sort of like the psychological element of all the characters I love so much, and it is unfortunate that the creator Gado just disappeared off the map. I have no idea where they went. Their art is awesome, but they deleted their Twitter, they deleted like every account associated with them, and I have no idea. And this is like this is Korean, so this is technically manhwa, not manga, but damn. It's in here in the index.
So it's over. It's not coming back ever.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I sadly hold out hope. I actually made an entire wiki for White Angels.
Damn.
In hope. Yeah, I made an entire wiki, like all the characters, and like slowly putting in all the chapters on there. Actually no, I put in all the chapters. I need to put the summaries for each of the chapters. So yeah, I like literally made an entire dedicated wiki out of like my obsession for the series, and hoping that one day Gado sees that there's some English-speaking American obsessing over their work, and it's like, maybe I should come back.
Yeah, maybe. Probably not though, but maybe.
The fans are calling me. We appreciate you, Gado.
Well, do you have any anime hot takes or manga hot takes?
Damn. I do, but I'm like freezing up.
Say them.
Oof. Man, I'm trying not to get hate, dude.
Yes, say them.
Yeah, hot takes. I guess like I'm not real like everyone always tries to get me into JJK, and I did mention how like I'm not like really into it, but I feel like Itadori is like one of the most mid protagonists I've ever like had to read. I did try to read it multiple times. Like I read like 40 chapters like of it twice, and Itadori just like bores me to hell and back. And a lot of the fight scenes that like people will send me like, oh wow, this is like mad choreographed. The animation is great, but like half of them is just like one character just punching over and over and over and over again. And like, are you actually like, I don't know, I'm just not as impressed with the choreography as I guess a lot of people are. Oh, also I hate Demon Slayer. Like I just actually have like a hate boner for Demon Slayer. Like I love to hate it. I think it's like the worst popular thing that has ever come out of Shonen Jump. So when I first read the early chapters, I would literally describe them as like manga that feels like it's like the person doesn't want to make a manga. Like I hate the way that the characters like family stuff is portrayed, where they get like a zoomed out panel where you don't even see any of their faces and you don't know jack about them, and you don't even like get to see his reaction, and it just like cuts to him walking with his sister, and I'm like, how in the world am I supposed to feel something for the family when you gave them like half a page and I don't even see their faces? Like it was so like detached, and I just like, yeah, and I hate whenever people are like, oh, Tanjiro is like the perfection of like shonen protagonist like Gon. I'm like, Gon is a you can't even compare them at all. Disrespect.
Gotta love shitting on garbage series, bro. Gotta love it. Let's go.
So yeah, I like the aesthetic of it. I just feel like it's very much carried by the animation. If it didn't get like the amazing animation that it got, no one was talking about it before. Like people were talking about Chainsaw Man and JJK before they got like animated. I didn't even know Demon Slayer existed. Like I didn't even know it was on the map. So, you know, if someone likes it, that's all good. You know, you can appreciate what you like. I just love hating on Demon Slayer.
As do I.
Like it's turned full circle to me enjoying it, but only because I hate it.
Dick. Let's go. But I think we can wrap this up with the last question I have here.
Okie dokie.
I asked this to the last female creator I interviewed. Free manga. Appreciate you coming up here. But what advice would you have, or would you give to aspiring female artists or authors, or just authors in general, or artists in general, I guess?
I'd say there's nothing wrong with not putting things immediately online. I feel like, not to come off negative, but I definitely sort of disagree with the notion of, oh, you know, just toss it online. Because what I've seen a lot on Webtoon is that people do that, especially if it's like a project that you care about. If you're just sort of like, I'm a hobbyist, you know, it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm a hobbyist, but you know, like if it's just sort of like a whatever project. But if it's like something you really care about, I would not go with the advice of just toss it online and just because what ends up happening is that people may toss it online before they have the skills that they want to actually make it the way that they want. And you also have to like keep your own mental health in mind. Like a lot of people put stuff online before they are mentally ready to be that engaged with that amount of people, which can backfire as well. And also, I feel like it's really good to spend a lot of time with your work, realizing how to make yourself satisfied. Because if you're satisfied first, you won't be burnt out by like how other people feel about your stuff. Like if you like your stuff first and you like figured out how to hone your skills, at least to an extent where you don't have to be perfect, but to at least where you are looking at what you're making and you're like, okay, this is close enough to where like it's getting like the point across of what I want from it. And then you put it online, and like I feel like when you're doing creative work that's ongoing, it's really a matter of endurance, not so much as like blowing up immediately. Because I've seen stuff where people will blow up immediately, but they may not have a buffer, or life gets in the way, or they just don't have the energy, and then it stops. So you really have to think about, okay, how do I design things where like if my life changes in the next couple of years, if this happens or that happens, it may not always work out, but thinking about in the long term, thinking also about how your readers are going to change as well. Like if someone's reading your stuff in, say like when the pandemic started, right now they're probably graduating like high school. If they just started high school, their priorities might be different. Sort of accepting that change is something that's going to come to everything that you do, and how you're going to sort of evolve with it. And there's nothing wrong with honing your skills. You don't want to like become a quote unquote perfectionist where like you never get anything done because you're constantly nitpicking with it. But there is nothing wrong with just not tossing your stuff up publicly immediately, because what people are often told is that you'll put stuff up immediately and you'll get better over time. But the thing is, if you're making a long-term story, if you're going to have to work with everything that you already put out. And what I tend to see happen is that when people had to retcon their series, or not retcon, reboot their series multiple times, or they realize that they don't like the early chapters because it was so much below like their skill level, they end up sort of stuck. I've seen this happen a lot, and you can easily prevent that by not just posting your stuff immediately. There's nothing wrong with not doing that. And it's also good because it means that your value to your work is not going to be directly tied to people's validation. So like I've seen people, they want to post their stuff online because they want that high of, wow, people are looking at it, people are clicking it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does become a problem if that is your core validation, because if you don't get that, or it just changes or shifts, I've seen people who, they may struggle mentally because that has become the primary motivation. Even when they are doing well, they're just so used to motivation being tied to those external things. And like I said, it's like an endurance test. So you have to sort of be able to get through those periods where you may not be getting that high in order to keep going, because there could be things in the future. So that's my advice. At the end of the day, have fun. That's the biggest thing. Everybody's having fun.
Yeah, I agree. Preached. I'm not gonna lie, you preached. But well, Punloid, I appreciate you, hopping on the channel today.
Thank you for the interview. This was fun.
Yeah,
we got to sit on Demon Slayer.
Yes, sir. That's what we like to see. Just shitting on bad series, bro. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Boruto, Demon Slayer, JJK, man, most of the time. But yeah, I guess I'll, catch you later. Stuff, I guess.
Have a good one.